Theodore Roosevelt, the man who refused to be broken. There's a photograph of Theodore Roosevelt taken in 1918, just months before his death. He's seated in a chair at his home in Sagamore Hill. His left eye is completely blind. His right eye is failing. He's deaf in one ear from an infection caught in the Amazon jungle. His body is riddled with old bullet wounds, broken bones, and tropical diseases. He's buried a wife, a mother, and a son. And in that photograph, his jaw is set. His eyes are clear. His posture is upright. He looks like a man who has never surrendered to anything in his entire life. This is a man who was told he would die before 30, who lost everything that mattered to him in a single day, who was shot in the chest and gave a 90-minute speech before going to the hospital, who explored uncharted rivers that nearly killed him, who became the youngest president in American history. Theodore Roosevelt didn't just live. He commanded life. And the way he did it contains lessons that will change how you see your own struggles, your own potential, and your own strength. Theodore Roosevelt was born in 1858 in New York City into a wealthy family. But wealth couldn't protect him from what would define his early years. He was physically weak, severely asthmatic, and spent much of his childhood struggling to breathe. Doctors told his father he might not survive into adulthood. His father looked him in the eye and said something that would echo through Roosevelt's entire life. He told Theodore that he had the mind, but he would need to build the body. That his brain was strong, but without a strong body to carry it, it would be useless. Roosevelt took that message and turned it into a personal war against his own limitations. He began boxing, hiking, lifting weights, pushing his body past what it was capable of, not just to survive, but to become something entirely different. He went to Harvard. He got married to a woman named Alice Lee. He entered politics in New York. Everything seemed to be falling into place. Then, on February 14, 1884, both his mother and his wife died in the same house, within hours of each other. His wife had just given birth to their daughter 2 days earlier. Roosevelt was 25 years old. He wrote a single X in his diary that day. Beneath it, he wrote, "The light has gone out of my life." Most men would have broken. Roosevelt went west. He became a cowboy and rancher in the Dakota Badlands, living in harsh conditions, learning to endure, to rebuild himself from nothing. He didn't run from grief. He walked straight into the wilderness and let it remake him. When he returned, he was different, harder, clearer, focused. He remarried. He re-entered politics. He became police commissioner of New York City, then assistant secretary of the Navy. When the Spanish-American War broke out in 1898, he resigned his position, formed a volunteer cavalry unit called the Rough Riders, and led a charge up San Juan Hill in Cuba. A year later, he was governor of New York. A year after that, vice president of the United States. And in 1901, after President McKinley was assassinated, Theodore Roosevelt became the youngest president in American history at age 42. He served 2 terms. He broke up monopolies. He created national parks. He built the Panama Canal. He won the Nobel Peace Prize for mediating the end of the Russo-Japanese War. After leaving office, he went on a safari in Africa. Then he led an expedition into the uncharted Amazon rainforest, mapping a river so dangerous it was called the River of Doubt. He nearly died from infection and starvation. He returned home weakened but unbroken. In 1912, while campaigning for a 3rd presidential term, he was shot in the chest by a would-be assassin. The bullet lodged in his chest, slowed by his eyeglass case, and the folded 50-page speech in his pocket. Roosevelt refused medical attention. He delivered his entire speech with a bullet in his chest, telling the crowd, "It takes more than that to kill a bull moose." He lost that election. His health declined. He lost his youngest son, Quentin, in World War I. The grief devastated him. In 1919, at the age of 60, Theodore Roosevelt died in his sleep at Sagamore Hill. When they found him, one of his friends said, "Death had to take him sleeping, for if Roosevelt had been awake, there would have been a fight." Pause. Reflect on this. This is not a story about a perfect man. This is a story about a man who refused to accept the limits placed on him. By his body, by tragedy, by fear, by the world. Now let's talk about what he can teach us. Lesson 1. Build your body to build your mind. Roosevelt was told his body would betray him. He was asthmatic, frail, weak. And instead of accepting that, he declared war on it. This is the first lesson. Your physical body is not separate from your mental and emotional strength. It is the foundation. When you are weak physically, everything feels harder. Your emotions are unstable. Your focus is scattered. Your willpower is thin. This is not philosophy. This is biology. Roosevelt understood that a strong body creates a strong mind. He didn't exercise because he loved it. He did it because he knew that without physical resilience, he could not face what life would demand from him. You don't need to become an athlete. You need to stop treating your body like it doesn't matter. You need to move it, challenge it, push it past comfort. Not to look good, not to impress anyone, but because when your body is capable, your mind becomes capable. The man who can run 5 miles can also endure a difficult conversation. The woman who can lift heavy weight can also carry heavy responsibility. Your body teaches your mind what is possible. Start small. Walk every day. Lift something heavy twice a week. Move your body until it remembers that it is strong. Your ancestors survived because they were physically capable. You dishonor them when you let your body decay out of convenience. Lesson 2. Grief does not give you permission to quit. When Roosevelt's wife and mother died on the same day, he could have collapsed. He could have withdrawn. He could have let bitterness consume him. Instead, he went to the wilderness. This is crucial. He didn't pretend the pain wasn't there. He didn't suppress it or avoid it. He walked into it. He let it exist. And he kept moving. Grief will come for you. Loss will find you. The people you love will leave, or die, or betray you. And in those moments, you will be tempted to stop, to give up, to let the pain define the rest of your life. Roosevelt shows us a different way. Feel the grief. Acknowledge it. Let it break you if it must. But do not let it keep you broken. After loss, the world does not stop. Your responsibilities do not vanish. The people who depend on you still need you. And if you quit, if you let grief turn you into a hollow version of yourself, then you lose twice. Once to the loss itself, and once to the choice to stop living fully. Roosevelt rebuilt himself in the Dakota Badlands. Not by ignoring his pain, but by refusing to let pain be the final word. You will face loss. The question is, will you let it end you, or will you let it forge you into something unbreakable? Pause. Reflect on this. Lesson 3. Do what you can with what you have where you are. Roosevelt lived by a principle that he expressed clearly throughout his life. He believed in taking action with whatever resources, knowledge, and power you currently possess. Not waiting for perfect conditions. Not delaying until you feel ready. Most people live in a state of permanent delay. They're waiting to start the business until they have more money. Waiting to pursue the relationship until they're more confident. Waiting to make the change until the circumstances are better. Roosevelt didn't wait. When he wanted to become physically strong, he didn't wait for a personal trainer or a perfect gym. He started immediately with what he had. When he faced political corruption, he didn't wait for support. He acted. You have more than you think you have. You have time. You have access to information. You have the ability to start small. The problem is not lack of resources. The problem is lack of willingness to begin. Stop waiting for permission. Stop waiting for the perfect moment. The perfect moment is a lie you tell yourself to avoid the discomfort of starting. Do what you can, with what you have, right now, today, and tomorrow. You will have more than you have today. Not because resources appeared out of nowhere, but because you built momentum. Action creates clarity. Clarity creates confidence. Confidence creates more action. Start. Lesson 4. Fear is a signal, not a barrier. Roosevelt was terrified of many things throughout his life. He was afraid of physical weakness. He was afraid in combat. He was afraid when exploring unknown territories. But he understood something that most people miss. Fear is not something to eliminate. Fear is information. When you feel fear, your body is telling you that something matters, that there is risk, that you are stepping outside of safety. And that is exactly where growth happens. The mistake people make is trying to feel brave before they act. They think courage means the absence of fear. It doesn't. Courage means acting despite fear. Roosevelt charged up San Juan Hill while afraid. He entered uncharted jungles while afraid. He gave speeches while afraid. Fear was present, but it was not in control. When you face a difficult conversation, you will feel fear. When you start a new venture, you will feel fear. When you pursue something meaningful, fear will be there. Good. That means you're doing something that matters. Stop waiting to feel brave. Bravery is not a feeling. It's a decision. You decide to act, and you act, and the fear comes along for the ride. The person who waits until fear disappears will wait forever. Lesson 5. Speak softly and carry a big stick. This was one of Roosevelt's most famous principles, and it's widely misunderstood. It doesn't mean be weak and hope for the best. It means be calm, be measured, be respectful, but be absolutely capable of backing up your words with action. In relationships, this means you don't yell, you don't threaten, you don't need to prove your power constantly. But you also don't tolerate disrespect. You don't accept mistreatment. You set boundaries calmly, and you enforce them without hesitation. In your career, this means you don't need to brag or perform. You do excellent work. You build real skill. You become undeniable. And when the moment comes to stand up for yourself, to demand what you're worth, you do it with quiet certainty. People respect strength that doesn't need to announce itself. They respect the person who is calm under pressure, who doesn't react emotionally, but who everyone knows is not to be tested. This is the balance. Be kind. Be respectful. Be measured. But be dangerous. Not dangerous in the sense of violence or cruelty. Dangerous in the sense that you are capable, that you are competent, that you will not be pushed around. The world respects those who have power but choose restraint. It has contempt for those who are loud but weak. Carry the stick. Speak softly. Lesson 6. The credit belongs to the man in the arena. Roosevelt delivered a speech in Paris in 1910 that contains one of the most powerful passages ever written about effort and courage. He spoke about the person who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs and comes short again and again, who knows the great enthusiasms and the great devotions, who spends themselves in a worthy cause. And at worst, if they fail, at least they fail while daring greatly, so that their place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who know neither victory nor defeat. This is everything. The world is full of critics, people who will tell you what you're doing wrong, people who will mock your efforts, people who will judge you from the safety of the sidelines. Ignore them. They are not in the arena. They are not risking anything. They are not building anything. They are spectators, and spectators do not matter. What matters is that you try, that you put yourself out there, that you risk failure, rejection, embarrassment, that you actually do the thing instead of talking about the thing. You will fail. You will make mistakes. You will fall short. And that is honorable, because you are brave enough to try. The person who never fails is the person who never tries. And that person has already lost. Get in the arena. Stay in the arena. Let the critics talk. They are irrelevant. Lesson 7. Comfort is the enemy of growth. Roosevelt could have lived a life of luxury. He was born into wealth. He had access to comfort, ease, and security. He chose the opposite. He chose the wilderness. He chose physical challenges. He chose difficult expeditions. He chose hard work. Because he understood that comfort makes you weak. When you are too comfortable, you stop growing. Your mind softens. Your body weakens. Your spirit becomes fragile. This is one of the great dangers of modern life. Everything is designed for comfort. Soft chairs. Climate control. Instant entertainment. Food delivered to your door. You can live your entire life without ever experiencing real discomfort. And if you do, you will become weak. Roosevelt sought out discomfort deliberately. Not because he enjoyed suffering, but because he knew that discomfort is where strength is built. You need to do the same. Take cold showers. Fast occasionally. Exercise until it hurts. Have difficult conversations. Do things that scare you. Put yourself in situations where you are not in control. This is not about being reckless. This is about remembering that you are capable of far more than you think. But you will never discover that capability if you never test it. Comfort is seductive. It feels good in the moment. But it robs you of your edge. It makes you fragile. Choose the harder path. Not because it's noble, but because it's the only path that leads to strength. Lesson 8. Your reputation is built in the small moments. Roosevelt was known for his integrity. When he said he would do something, he did it. When he gave his word, it meant something. This didn't happen by accident. It happened because he understood that your reputation is not built in the grand gestures. It's built in the small, everyday decisions that no one is watching. Do you follow through on small promises? Do you show up on time? Do you do what you said you would do, even when it's inconvenient? Most people are reliable when it's easy, when there's accountability, when there's something to gain. But the small moments, the moments when no one is watching, when there's no immediate reward, those are the moments that define who you are. If you lie about small things, you will lie about big things. If you break small promises, you will break big promises. If you cut corners when no one is looking, you will cut corners when it matters. Roosevelt built trust because he was consistent. In small things and large things. In public and in private. Your character is what you do when no one is watching. And over time, people feel that. They sense it. They know who can be trusted and who cannot. Be the person who keeps their word. Always. Even when it costs you. That is how you build a reputation that precedes you. That is how you become someone people respect. Lesson 9. Learn constantly and widely. Roosevelt was a voracious reader. He read multiple books a week throughout his entire life. History, science, literature, philosophy, poetry. He read while traveling. He read while in office. He read until the day he died. This was not about being intellectual. This was about understanding the world deeply, so he could act effectively within it. Most people stop learning after school. They coast on what they already know. And slowly, the world passes them by. You cannot afford to stop learning. The world changes too quickly. New ideas emerge. Old certainties are challenged. If you are not constantly updating your understanding, you are falling behind. But more than that, learning keeps your mind sharp. It keeps you curious. It keeps you humble. Because the more you learn, the more you realize how much you don't know. Read books. Not just in your field, but widely. History teaches you about human nature. Philosophy teaches you how to think. Science teaches you about truth. Literature teaches you about the human experience. Roosevelt could speak about astronomy with scientists, literature with writers, and ranching with cowboys, because he made himself knowledgeable in many areas. This made him effective, because he could understand different perspectives. He could communicate with different people. He could synthesize ideas from different fields. Learn constantly. Read every day. Stay curious. The moment you think you know enough is the moment you start becoming irrelevant. Lesson 10. Nature restores what civilization depletes. Roosevelt loved the wilderness. He spent enormous amounts of time in nature, and he fought to preserve wild places for future generations. This was not sentimentality. He understood that nature restores something essential that modern life drains from you. When you spend all your time in artificial environments, surrounded by screens, notifications, noise, and concrete, something inside you begins to wither. You lose perspective. You lose peace. You lose connection to something fundamental. Nature reminds you that you are small, that your problems are not as large as they seem, that there are forces and rhythms older and greater than your anxieties. Roosevelt would retreat to Sagamore Hill, to the wilderness, to recover himself, to think clearly, to remember what mattered. You need to do the same. Get outside. Go to the woods. Sit by water. Watch the sunrise. Disconnect from the digital noise and reconnect with the physical world. This is not optional if you want to maintain your sanity in modern life. You need regular contact with nature, not as a vacation, as a practice. Even if it's just a walk in a park, even if it's just sitting under a tree. Your nervous system needs it. Your mind needs it. Your spirit needs it. Roosevelt created national parks because he knew that future generations would need wild places to restore themselves. He was right. Use them. Lesson 11. Your children will mirror your actions, not your words. Roosevelt had 6 children. He was deeply involved in their lives. He played with them. He read to them. He took them on adventures. He showed them, through his actions, what it meant to live with courage and integrity. This is a lesson that extends beyond parenting. The people around you, especially those who look up to you, will not remember your advice. They will remember what you did. If you tell your children to be brave, but you live in fear, they will learn fear. If you tell them to work hard, but you are lazy, they will learn laziness. If you tell them to be honest, but you lie, they will learn to lie. Your life is the lesson. What you do is what they will do. This applies to leadership in any context. If you want your team to be disciplined, you must be disciplined. If you want respect, you must show respect. If you want integrity, you must live with integrity. You cannot outsource this. You cannot delegate it. You cannot fake it. Roosevelt's children grew up to be strong, capable people because they watched their father live the principles he spoke about. If you want to influence others, start by becoming the example. Live the life you want them to live. Everything else is just noise. Lesson 12. Comparison is the enemy of excellence. Roosevelt competed against himself. He pushed his own limits. He measured his progress against his own past, not against others. This is critical. When you compare yourself to others, you enter a game you cannot win. There will always be someone stronger, smarter, richer, more successful. Always. And if your sense of worth is tied to being better than others, You will live in permanent inadequacy. Roosevelt didn't care if other men were stronger. He cared if he was stronger than he was yesterday. He didn't care if other leaders were more popular. He cared if he was living according to his own principles. This is the path to excellence, not comparison. Progress. Are you better than you were last year? Last month? Last week? Are you growing? Are you building? Are you moving toward the person you want to become? That is the only measurement that matters. The moment you start comparing yourself to others is the moment you lose focus, because you're looking outward instead of inward. You're measuring yourself by someone else's standard instead of your own. Run your own race. Set your own standards. Compete with your former self. That is how you become excellent. Lesson 13. Idleness is spiritual death. Roosevelt despised laziness, not because he was cruel, but because he understood that idleness destroys the soul. When you are idle, when you have nothing meaningful to work toward, you decay. Your mind becomes weak. Your body becomes weak. Your spirit becomes weak. Human beings are built to strive, to work, to overcome challenges, to create, to build. When you remove that, when you remove purpose and effort, you create misery. This is why so many people who have everything are still deeply unhappy, because they have comfort but no purpose. They have ease but no challenge. They have time but no direction. Roosevelt was never idle. Even in his later years, weakened by disease and injury, he was writing, reading, planning, engaging. You need the same. You need work that matters to you. You need a goal that pulls you forward. You need something to build. It doesn't have to be grand. It doesn't have to change the world. But it has to matter to you. Without that, you will drift. And drift leads to despair. Find your work. Do it with full effort. And when you complete it, find the next work. This is not about achievement. This is about staying alive in the deepest sense. Lesson 14. Forgive, but never forget. Roosevelt believed in moving forward. He didn't hold grudges that consumed him. He didn't let bitterness poison his life. But he was not naive. He remembered who betrayed him. He remembered who was dishonest. He remembered who could not be trusted. This is the balance. Forgiveness does not mean pretending the offense didn't happen. It doesn't mean giving someone unlimited chances to hurt you again. It means releasing the anger so it doesn't destroy you, but retaining the wisdom so you don't repeat the mistake. When someone shows you who they are, believe them, and adjust your life accordingly. You can forgive the person who lied to you, but you don't have to trust them again. You can forgive the person who betrayed you, but you don't have to let them close to you again. Forgiveness is for your peace. Boundaries are for your protection. Roosevelt didn't waste energy on revenge, but he also didn't waste energy on people who had proven themselves unreliable. Be wise. Forgive for your own sake, but protect yourself with the knowledge you've gained. Lesson 15. Die with your boots on. Roosevelt lived until his last breath. He didn't retire into passivity. He didn't withdraw from life. He stayed engaged, active, fighting until the end. When death came for him, it had to take him in his sleep, because if he had been awake, he would have fought. This is the final lesson. Live until you die. Don't retire from life at 40, 50, or 60 and just wait for death. Don't give up on growth, challenge, and purpose just because you've reached a certain age or achieved a certain status. Stay dangerous. Stay capable. Stay engaged. The moment you decide you're done growing is the moment you start dying. Roosevelt could have retired after his presidency. He could have lived comfortably, given speeches, collected honors. Instead, he went to the Amazon. He explored. He pushed himself, because he understood that life is not about safety. It's not about comfort. It's about vitality. You have one life, one body, one span of time. Don't waste it in comfort. Don't waste it in safety. Don't waste it waiting. Live with intensity, with purpose, with courage. And when death comes, make it work for you. Theodore Roosevelt was not a perfect man. He made mistakes. He had flaws. He faced failures. But he refused to be broken by his body, by tragedy, by fear, by loss, by the world. He lived with a ferocity that most people cannot imagine, not because he was special, but because he chose to. Every single day, he chose to push forward, to grow stronger, to live fully. You have that same choice. You can accept the limits the world places on you. You can let fear, comfort, and doubt define your life. You can wait for perfect conditions that will never come. Or you can decide, right now, that you will not be broken, that you will build your body and your mind, that you will face your grief and keep moving, that you will act with what you have, that you will get in the arena and stay there, that you will live until you die. Roosevelt left us a blueprint, not through his words alone, but through his life. The question is not whether you understand the lessons. The question is whether you will live them. Pause. Reflect on this. Now go. Build the life that is waiting for you. The life that requires courage. The life that demands everything you have. The life that is worth living. This is your arena. Enter it.